Hello, I've been looking at some of these Elmer books, which is really great because I quite like elephants. Elephants are really lovely, and there's actually quite a lot of Elmer books. I've got Elmer and the Stranger, Elmer and Wilbur. So Elmer has all these square patches with different colours, but Wilbur seems to be a black and white one. That's interesting. What else do I have? Elmer's Special Day. Elmer and the Lost Teddy. The teddy looks a bit like Elmer, doesn't he? So I thought what we could do is have a go at doing a bit of artwork and making an elephant picture that looks a bit like Elmer with all these squares, and they're all quite straight, so it might be a little bit tricky. I think we're going to have to use a ruler, aren't we? Shall we give it a go? Right, so this is what I'm going to have a go at trying to draw, which is Elmer. Now, if you haven't got a book of Elmer, you could always have a look on the internet and get a picture of Elmer there, but it's quite good to have something next to you to give you some idea what it's going to look like. Now, Elmer only has a very small tail, unlike most real elephants who have quite long dangly tails. And I'm going to get his feet there, that's his first foot, and the other foot's going to come behind him and go upwards like that. Then it sort of goes round a bit, down, and then I think his next foot comes sort of down in front of that one and goes round. In fact, I might be better off using a ruler for these flat bits. I'm going to rub that little bit out. There we go. And I might use a ruler for the flat bit because he does have lots of square patches on him, doesn't he? And then I can actually use the ruler to go back up here. Then I'm going to stop using the ruler, and this is where we sort of come up to near where his mouth is. So I'm going to do a little mouth there, and then it's going to come down. Then we have the big trunk that comes down like that, you see, and then bring it up towards his forehead, and then have a little flat bit that goes across like that. Now, that is the general shape. If you look at that, that is the sort of general shape of him. But he's also got this little ear, hasn't he, and the eye. So we need to put those in. So I'm going to put a little round eye here. And I'm going to come out with the ear like that. Now you may have a different ear, you might have a big or a small ear. So we've got a general good shape of Elmer, but what's important is all these squares and putting them in. And rather than drawing lots of individual squares, we could actually use a ruler to help us. So I'm going to show you how to do it. Now I'm going to sort of cordon off the legs a little bit. So I'm going to draw one there, one there. I'm going to make the legs separate, because if you look at Elmer, the squares there, they're separate to the rest of his body. It's almost like we have 4 separate squares for each leg. So that's why I've done that. Now with our ruler, we're going to go down, and what I might do actually is do 2 centimetres each. So I've got 2 centimetres. If I'm counting in twos, I could go. So I don't know if you can see, I've started at 0 where the tail is, or on the where the starting point is on the ruler, and gone to 2 centimetres. I'm going to do a little dot for 4, then 6, because if we count in twos, it goes 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And I might do the same thing, but just a little bit further up. So I've got my 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 there, and I might do it here at the bottom as well. So there's my 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Right, now you might think, why is he doing that? But I can actually join my dots up now a little bit. They might not be absolutely perfect. In fact, I think this middle one isn't, but the top and the bottom one is. Now when I do this one, I need to be careful and not go over the ear. And I think actually there would be another one, so I might just, I think it's just before his eye, so I'm going to do one that goes down there as well. So we've got some going down. Now with the dots, you can always rub out the little dots afterwards if any of them were slightly in the wrong place. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. So we've got all of the lines going down, but of course we need to go across. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing now. I'm going to turn my piece of paper that way round, and I might measure from one side to the other. So if I put my starting point on Elmer's back, let's do it down here. So if that's the 0, I might just go down. In fact, let's do the middle first. I think the middle would be better. And we can count 2, 4, 6, 8, and then I think we'll stop there because then we get to his feet. Let's go up here. I think the problem is Elmer's back isn't particularly straight, so this is where you have to be a little careful. 6, 8. So let's try and see if I can do something with that. So I've got my dot there and there. Hopefully I should be able to get a straight line. Let's try here. Is it? I'm not sure about that one. Might have to rub this one out, do this one again. Now don't worry if you do go wrong, because it could happen. I think it needs to be more that way, doesn't it? Like that, because then I can fill in those little squares. Let's try this one. In fact, I need to do the bit after the ear, don't I? I might actually come below the eye. There we go. And finally, I will have this one. And then I'll need to do his trunk, won't I? So I might have another one there and another one right at the end. So I've sort of got all the squares on his body, but I need to do his ears and his feet. So I'm going to do that bit of his ear there. And then I'm not going to do them in the same place because I want it to look slightly different. So I'm going to do 2 there and a line down the middle for his ears. Now, this foot will be easy because it'll just be 4 like that. And I can do another one there. This one you can be a little less precise, I think, with these feet, because they don't have to be perfect. Let's have 1 there, and we can do 2 there. Now, all we need to do is start colouring. So, you may decide you don't want to colour them in. You may actually want to get some little bits of coloured fabric and do squares like that and glue them all on and make a fabric Elmer. Now, that would be absolutely brilliant if you could do that. If you've got some little bits of ribbon you could cut up. You could use colouring pencils, or you could use some felt tip pens. So it's up to you. I might use some felt tip pens for this one. The problem with felt tip pens is you have to be very careful when you're colouring not to go over the edges. So let's have a go. Oops. I'm going to start with, so the way I do it is I tend to go around the edge of the square. Now the square is in pencil, so it doesn't matter. I'll go around the edge of the square. There we go, like that. And then go around the edge. Now as long as I've done that, then I can quite quickly and thickly colour in the rest, can't I? So that's 1 square down, and who knows how many to go. If you want a counting exercise, you can pause the video and count the squares if you like. So I might do, let's have a black one here. So having to be very careful not to go over the squares. Oops. These are very thick felt tips actually, and I just need to maybe use some thin ones. Just go around the squares like that. Now I think what might be a good idea is if I skip ahead a little bit on the video, because if you watch me colouring every single individual square, we could be here all day. So just go down that little bit. Now, as you can see, I've deliberately left some white squares because if you look at Elmer, he does have quite a few little white squares, doesn't he? So there's some that you can just leave not coloured in, and I've actually tried to get some of them the same colour as Elmer. So if you look at this row down here, I go yellow, red, green, blue, orange. Well, yellow, red, green, blue, orange. So I've actually going to try and get Elmer just right, but you don't need to do that if you don't want to. You might have other colours like silver and gold that you want to use instead. So shall we skip ahead and I will carry on, and then we can talk about doing the next bit. Well, as it turns out, I have slightly more rows of squares on my elephant, than on actual Elmer. So I'm going to have to think of some other colours to put in. So I might put, I was going to put a yellow one in there, but I've got a yellow one. So it's actually quite important not to have two colours that are next to each other. If I have a yellow one there, I'll have two yellows and it won't be a square, it'll be a rectangle. So if I put a red one here, you can actually, it's probably better actually if you try and do your own version, because then you can be as creative as you possibly can. Now the way I colour is to just do a square around the inside and draw strokes across. Hopefully they won't go over. Might need to just fill in those little gaps. Let's skip ahead, shall we? Now when you do the eye, I would suggest just drawing around the eye first. And this is probably the bit you need to be the most careful. I just keep drawing around the bit that I'm drawing around. So it's very important not to get any colour into the actual eye. Now I've sort of done everywhere apart from the legs and the ears. Now I think the ears are going to be complicated because I need to have colours that aren't like the surrounding colours. So I'm going to actually leave this top one white, because then I know I've not really got any of these around it. And this one I might do green, because even though I've got a green above it, it's not next to a green, or it's not next to a yellow. And I'm going to actually use the darker green like I've done here, and not the light green that's over there. So it may sound like it's we're just colouring squares, but actually we need to think very carefully about using colours that aren't all the same. Now I'm going to use a red one. Now I have a red one there, but actually the ear is in front of a blue one, and my other red one is all the way over there. So I think I'm going to have a red one here. Let's do that bit of the ear red. Which means, and I've noticed apart from the mouth, there are no orange ones around here, so I might do an orange one next to the red one. Having to be very careful because these felt tips are quite thick, but if I put it on its top like that, you can see it's got a very thin nib at the end. So maybe when you do your one, it might be better to use a thinner felt tip pen. Now I'm going to use a black one because I've not got any black ones around here. And I need to think of another one. Might do purple actually, because I've got a purple one up here, but not that many down the bottom. There we go. And Elmer has his ear. So all I need to do now are the legs. Now these ones are supposed to be white, so don't remember to leave a few white ones, because Elmer, if we look at the picture of Elmer, he does have some white ones, doesn't he, in those places. So let's move on to the legs, and I think because I really like the yellow on Elmer, I'm going to do my first bit of his leg yellow, and you'll notice that I've got no yellow ones around here. Most of the yellow ones are up there, so it'd be nice to have some yellow at the bottom. And it's looking at your colours and seeing if you can get them evenly spread out. Now don't worry if you accidentally get one wrong, because, and I'm going to show you a little trick here. So let's say if we were using, so let's say if I accidentally did yellow next to a yellow one. And you might think, well, how can I repair that? You've got two yellows next to each other. But what's very interesting is mixing colours. If I go blue over this yellow, I get a sort of greeny colour. So don't worry if you do make a mistake like that, because even with felt tip pens, they are correctable. You can probably ask a grown-up for some advice if you're not sure if you make a mistake like that. But it doesn't matter, because no one's expecting the perfect elephant. But if you take your time and don't rush, I guarantee you it will be a lot neater than if you just rush through it really quickly. And I know some of you love to take your time when you're doing art, and you come up with some beautiful pieces of art that's really impressive. Shall we skip ahead? And it's time for the very last square. And I think because I've enjoyed yellow the most, I'm going to do the last one yellow. There we go. What's interesting as well is, but I think yellow's the only one where you really see the pencil marks, because you don't really notice them when you've got all these bright colours next to each other. And there we have our finished Elmer picture. Right, well, I hope you enjoyed that. I found it quite relaxing, actually, drawing all those squares. This is our finished picture. Are you impressed? Yes, I thought you might be. Do you want to have a go? Well, of course you can have a go. We'll get you some pens and paper. In fact, I'm really interested to see what yours is going to look like when you have a go. I hope you send in lots of pictures of your Elmers. You could even actually cut it out, couldn't you, afterwards, and put it somewhere. I'm sure grown-ups would love to have it on their fridge or something with some magnets. Really nice, relaxing piece of art about Elmer. Well, good luck, and I shall see you soon.